Joining us this morning is the Executive Director of the Crawford Heritage Community Foundation, Mr. Christian Maher. Good to see you, Christian. How are you?
Nice to see you, too, and I appreciated the Traveling Wilburys intro.
Excellent.
Always a classic.
Yeah, that's right. What would you like to wrap things up with?
Wrap things up from last year?
Or? Oh, no. Song-wise.
I don't know.
What bumper music? You think about what bumper music you want. Yeah. Okay.
You're amazing at multitasking behind there and finding the right intro and outro music.
Well, how are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to
you.
you.
I know you're supposed to stop saying that like a week out. But
yeah, probably.
I haven't seen you since last year.
Yeah, true. So, it's a new season. I was complaining before we went on the air that, I've been in accounting mode because we're trying to wrap up last year. And all indicators are that, we, at the Community Foundation, raised record amounts of money for lots of different organizations, for ourselves and our programming. We typically run 2 discretionary grant programs throughout the year, and we got absolutely inundated with applications in December, probably almost twice the normal volume
Wow.
that we usually get. So we've kind of decided that we're going to do 1 round of grant making this year, and because it's just so many organizations have applied, and many of them very good projects that you don't want to say no, wait till the spring to reapply. And so I think we're going to be making a lot of those decisions today. At the committee level, and then passing that up to our board of directors to make final decisions about. So, all good problems to have. That we've got lots of interest in what we do, and lots of interesting programs throughout the county. We're trying to put together a last-minute kind of training on nonprofit financial basics that's geared toward teaching volunteers for completely volunteer nonprofit organizations and more seasoned professionals, people who are volunteers on boards. If you're on a finance committee on a nonprofit board and you're like, I keep getting these reports, not totally sure what they're supposed to tell me or what are the questions I should be asking so I have the detail I need. So that's a training that we're trying to put together right now. We're looking at February to get that on the books. And of course, the time is, but we've got.
I think we're halfway through January almost.
I know, it's terrible. But we're really trying to get that on the schedule, get some experts together to present that program.
Obviously, we've been hearing this for years, but it just seems like it's really ramped up where organizations, and organizations that in the past really haven't had issues with getting volunteers, are struggling finding volunteers.
Yeah, I think I'm in a service club and I'm in a Rotary club, and there's the perennial problem. I think that we look at things, we're like, the younger generation isn't stepping up to do things. And while I will say that there is some truth to that, I think the problem is more that we're not asking, we're not finding ways for younger people to be engaged, we're not giving them the responsibility that makes them feel like they are making good decisions and giving back to the organizations. And when we do recruit these people, often it's okay, well, this is how we've always done it, and so don't rock the boat too much, but we want your new ideas. And you can't have both. So that's probably another thing that's on our radar is how do we more effectively build that next level of volunteers, mentor them appropriately.
It seems like it's such a struggle. And Amy was watching a TikTok video the other day. I know.
You got to love it.
Yeah. But it was like a Gen Zer talking about how to survive a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
I'm like,
it's, I'm
not picking on those folks.
No, I'm a Gen Xer, and so like I I just approach things very differently. And so a lot of it is, I mean, now, it's us being like, oh, the kids today.
Yeah, but I also look at, and I completely understand, but I know there's also a lot of talk about, your time is valuable, and I think during COVID, obviously there was a lot of, okay, we're going to worry about us and
Sure.
and you look at what's going on in sports and college sports and name, image, likeness, and
Yeah.
you have instead of like the team aspect, now it's a very much a me.
Yeah.
I'm a company. I'm a business now, and I understand that as an organization, you're looking for somebody who has ties to, connections because you want to bring them on, and hopefully they're reaching out. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there, but. It's such a different world.
Yeah, I mean, my mindset is always that, like, we're better together than we are separately. We have common interests and common goals for our region and for the people who live here. We want people to live productive, healthy lives, and we want people to give back. And so, like, you have you have rights as a citizen, certainly, but you've also got responsibilities. I think in a civil society, you should be giving back in some sort of way. And so maybe that's something that, well, I do think that that's something that we should promote as a nonprofit sector, is that giving back, that serving on a board or volunteering or something like that. And it doesn't have to consume your life, but it should be a component of what you do to lead a fulfilling life. But that also requires some of us to be better mentors and explain to younger people, okay, well, these are the responsibilities. These are the kind of things you have to do. These are the kinds of things you maybe should do. Because I hear nonprofit leaders who complain about new younger board members who come on with a lot of energy and then have very little follow through. And so is that just a one-off situation, or is that where they needed a little more training, they needed a little more orientation to the organization, and do they need do they need a mentor from the board who's like, hey, I noticed that you're doing this, and it would be much more productive if you tried something else, or this approach to this, or hey, I noticed you weren't at the last meeting. It's really important that you continue to come. So these are all things that organizations can incorporate into their programs. It takes a little work, and we're all already stressed and short-staffed and all those things, so it's a little harder. But
I'm not asking you this question.
Yeah.
You work with a lot of organizations. Yeah. The other side is, as a leader of an organization, it has to be challenging. Are you getting direction from your board, or are they looking for you to provide direction and they're just going to help guide you? There seems to be multiple ways of doing it.
And there's multiple ways of doing it. And again, the board is ultimately who is providing direction for the organization. If you have good staff, they're going to lay out how they envision providing services. And it's up to the board to say, yeah, that makes sense upon reflection, like we should do that. Or go back to their paid staff and be like, hey, or have you thought about this thing? Could this approach work? And you've seen that on boards where it's like, okay, well, we want to try this, and the staff will be like, well, we tried that in here, and this is why it didn't really work in that way. But if we want to deliver the same services in a slightly different way that might work, we could do, option Z. So it just depends, and I think it all hinges on really good communication both ways and honesty about like what's worked in the past, what can work in the future, what are best practices for the industry even. I mean, because we look at other community foundations and say, hey, this is working for our friends in Venango County, it's working for our friends in Pittsburgh. It might work here. Might not, but
yeah.
But at least if we can try it, we can, have demonstrated outcomes that say, hey, it's worthwhile.
Curious, did anybody ever say to you, like, Crawford gives, that won't work?
Well, and so we do. And so, like, that kind of thing. Or is it really the best use of our resources? Because we spend a lot of money on it, and
A lot of time.
And a lot of time. So, I mean, that's all time that we could have put into other programming, different programming. But I think first year, people were kind of iffy, like, oh, well, maybe. And then they kind of saw how much money came in. And then, as time goes on, and, I was ready to pull the plug before last year because participation was flat. And so we wanted to see more participation. We did some things to incentivize that, and participation was up this year. And so if we can continue that kind of momentum, we'll continue doing it. But if you stay flat, you're not going to continue doing it necessarily.
Yeah.
But it's all those things. Like, you have to have some sort of demonstratable outcomes.
But it was also, I think, for some organizations, sort of this is what they do. Oh, okay. It was an introduction to what
Right,
Crawford
and
Community
and
Foundation
for us,
is.
it's an introduction to our donors as well, and people in the community who didn't necessarily have a reason to get to know us before. And it's a way for us to learn about what people's priorities are, because ultimately we want to see folks in our community, including nonprofit organizations, in their wills, estate planning, really planning for long into the future. I mean, we see this here, especially in Titusville. You've got money that was, created during the oil boom that has, for generations now, subsidized organizations here. In the past couple of years, we've seen a little bit of that dry up. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, you've obviously heard all those things, too. As people have moved away and families are not as invested in the region. And so we want to see that kind of thing not happen and make sure that if you
that's what's left of mine right there.
if you made your if you were blessed and made some money here, do I think you definitely should leave some money behind to improve the region? I think you should, but that's ultimately a personal decision.
Well, you'd be the guy to talk to, so if you want to schedule that meeting, it's a great time to do that. Let's do this real quick. You're watching the Morning Drill on Stream Television and on Armstrong's Neighborhood Channel. Christian Maher with us here this morning, Crawford Heritage Community Foundation. The Facebook page, always updated, lots of great information. You have up here, scholarship season is coming up,
season
right?
is, and one of the things I should know is a lot of college parents have been complaining about the FAFSA. I don't know if you have, did you have to do the FAFSA
I think
yet?
so.
Amy probably handles that one, right? So there have been a lot of complaints about the FAFSA form this year. There's been some changes, and so that is one of the things that we ask for information from when we're doing the application. So our friends at FIA are going to have a webinar here soon about that. That'll be on our Facebook. And so if you're having troubles, there's resources out there for completing the FAFSA and making sure that it hopefully goes through. And again, our scholarship applications are now live. So if you have a graduating high school senior, especially in Crawford County, now is the time to start prodding them, because it'll be a week out and they'll be like, oh, should I have done a thing?
You know what?
I was that kid.
Well, I've noticed too, covering graduation ceremonies, when they start naming the scholarships, like all the parents sit there going, how come my kid didn't apply for this? Like everybody realizes that their kid didn't do as much as they probably could have.
I will say, though, in Titusville at least, we get a significant amount of applications. And the guidance staff is fantastic about compiling a really big list of like what's out there, what's available.
Well, I'm sure others do as well. It's just, will the student actually...
Oh, no, not everybody does.
Yeah.
But,
oh, okay.
But I'm just saying, I want to call out Titusville for doing a particularly good job.
Okay. Ooh.
So take that as you will.
All right. Will do. But no, it's just fascinating because I'll sit there and be like, how come Sam didn't do this?
Well, yeah. I mean, you're always going to... I mean, I was that kid, though. Like, I had no motivation, no direction at that age.
Yeah.
And I will say it's usually young women who are taking the initiative to apply. So whatever they, the trite thing about young women maturing faster and being more on top of things is kind of true in this respect, at least.
All right, you heard that. So
it's demonstrable. I can quantify that.
Yeah. No, that's great. So parents, just
parents, get on your kids, and it helps. Like,
How much of it, like Amy and I talk about this, it's like, we're not going to sit there and do it for you.
Right.
I mean, you're going to be an adult.
because I think some do. Some parents do do that.
I know
for their
they
kids.
do.
Yeah, so
I know
I'm just
they
like, and we kind of look at those and we're like, yeah, your kid didn't write that.
We had a grandmother fill out an application for a part-time job coaching soccer. And it's like, I know the writing, I know the grandparent. I'm like, what are you doing? You need to do this.
Yeah.
But anyhow.
Weird.
So there's information available on scholarship.
Yeah, on website crawfordheritage.org. Call our office if you have questions, if you have difficulties. We've rolled out a new scholarship application this year. We have one application for every one of our scholarships. So
Oh, wow.
So you just have to select which school you go to, and it'll branch you down the right path, and hopefully everything will fire on all pistons, and at the end we'll have lots of applications from lots of students in a process that was streamlined to make everything easier. So,
Well, what excites you most about the new year?
what excites me most about the new year is that I'm another year towards retirement. No, I'm kidding. I've got way too long to go before then. We've got a lot, like I was saying earlier, we've just got a lot going on so far this year, and for us, like, we've grown a lot in the past 2 years. We have more employees. We have more people that I can like delegate work to, and so I kind of feel like we're firing on most of our cylinders right now, in that I can, kind of oversee some of the stuff that needs to happen and do more.
Does that free you up to meet with people more?
Yeah. And so, like, yesterday, I was able to get out and have a meeting with someone about Crawford Gives matching funds and those kind of things.
Wow.
That I will say that's the hardest part of my job right now, is finding those matching funds for Crawford Gives, because it's a little nebulous as to where they're going to go. It could be a lot of different places. So people get a little nervous about that sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's just a difficult fundraising environment these days sometimes.
Well, it can be challenging, but
That's
makes every day different for you.
yeah. But the community foundation itself, I think we're a well-oiled machine where we've got systems in place to keep track of every penny out there, and that's one of the things we really want to demonstrate to our donors, is that our fiscal management is kind of unparalleled in the area. That if you give us money, we can tell you exactly down to the dollar and the penny where that money has gone, what kinds of programs it's supported, what kind of impact it's having. And we want to be partners with people as to finding the things that they want to support, kind of matching them with areas of impact that really feel worthwhile to them.
We're coming into, well, no, we're not coming in. We're into an election year. Do you get businesses say, well, hold off, we want to see how things go? Or do people understand, yeah, you know what, we can have an impact locally, and it's important to continue to create opportunities for folks?
Yeah, and I mean, most of the people that I work with, like their giving events are more tied to age and, personal circumstances and things like that. So they've got to figure out, when it makes sense to start taking distributions from IRAs and things like that, and whether part of that should be charitable giving, or if they want to make gifts to their children, how do they also offset some with gifts to charity and all of those things. So we can tend to be part of a team with an accountant, a financial advisor, maybe your insurance professional if you're planning life insurance or something like that. But it all just usually depends on life stage more than like what's going on in the political spectrum.
Okay. It's always fascinating to hear.
Yeah, we're kind of recession-proof too in a lot of ways, because sometimes we get large gifts during a recession, and that kind of makes things look like we're going gangbusters, even though like our investments might not be doing so well.
I think this area was really hit hard late 80s, early 90s with
Oh,
different.
for sure.
Yeah, so it's kind of like been there, done that. You know,
a couple times. It's like, well, in here in Titusville, it's like, oh, Cyclops closed, or Meadville, oh, Talon closed.
Yeah.
Like you,
Quaker steak pulling out.
right. Your community bears some scars for that, for sure. But ultimately, I think we've weathered those storms pretty well.
Well, it sounds like this would be a great time to. Well, and every time's a great time to sit down and have a discussion with you. And there's so much that you can offer or advise people. So there's all sorts of different doors you can open.
and it's never too early to start having those conversations. Like, it's a send no money now kind of situation. Like, set up a time to talk, figure out what you might want to do like 10, 20, 30 years in the future, figure out what kind of steps you need to take right now.
All right. How do folks get a hold of you?
CrawfordHeritage.org is the website, and 814-499-1852 will ring my cell phone and the office phone at the same time.
Wow.
I know, fancy.
Yeah.
Modern tech.
Technology.
It's the 21st century, man.
It's incredible. Hey, good to see you.
Hey, nice to see you too.
All the best in 2024.
Thank you.
Bang.